Hello, this is Craig from RDHGarage. Today I'm going to do an interview with Ben Leese, who is a friend of Fred Schutt and his wife Barbara, whom I won a couple motorcycles from him at auction at his estate auction a couple years ago. And when I went to do the title transfer, it was a Texas title, and Ben had
Right.
signed the lease, the death certificate, I'm sorry, the death certificate, and the Department of Transportation required him to fill out some more forms, basically to be able to transfer the title, and that was quite a fun process.
Oh my.
And we ran into some other issues with my friend, because I won both of his motorcycles, the black one. I passed on to my friend, and then we tried to get the title transferred to him, and we had another another
Oh
visit
yeah.
to our Department of Transportation. So so it was quite an ordeal, but we got through it. So I ended up with the 1979 uh, R100RT, which was really seemed to be Fred's motorcycle where he rode across the world
Right.
and across the United States and the world. And I had won some of his maps with pegboards in it showing where he went and things like
Good. I'm
that.
glad they went with the motorcycle.
So and family pictures and things like
Mhm.
that. And so I decided to keep that one. I actually wanted the black one. That's the one I really wanted, but the RT came up first, and I got it at a good price, and then the second one came up and I got it at the price I wanted. So so then I made the decision to, because this one had a story behind it, is why I decided to
Right.
mechanically restore the bike. I mean, I didn't, I kept the patina on it. It has his name and everything still on the side, so I could just kind of show you that. This is the finish. This is the nice side. He took it down on the other side, so there's some
Yeah.
scratches on the other side, but
Yeah.
it still has his name on it, and it's running great now.
That's
Took a lot
beautiful.
of work and money, but but
I'm
it
sure it
yeah.
did.
so so that's what happened. I don't know if you have any questions about that. Yeah, it took me about a year and a half
Hmm.
to restore it, and it's a nice ride. Yeah.
It looks
So
beautiful.
thank you. So I'll take that. So let's go back to this. Okay. So I guess I just want to know about, what how you met Fred and Barbara, and, things like that about his life,
Sure.
maybe about his travels or about their trips when they
Well, I,
lived
I
in
think I want
PA.
to
Go
lead
ahead.
off by saying when I started as executor of the estate,
Okay.
I had to deal with the fact that Fred was building an airplane in his basement.
Okay.
So not only were there two motorcycles in the basement, there was also an airplane.
Okay.
And he was building
Interesting.
the cockpit over here and the wing over there, and
It
so
was still in pieces then, or?
oh yeah, yeah, it wasn't
Okay.
put together yet. It was going to be a full sized airplane that he was going to fly in.
Okay.
So
And
so
how long was
that
he doing that? How
I'm
long was
sorry,
he? How long was he doing that adventure? Do you know the project?
probably 10 years, maybe
Okay.
more than that. Because what happened was, I think when I first met Fred in 2007, he already had an airplane kit going in the basement. But then Barbara died in, when did Barbara die? 2017, I think. And he was so torn up about it when Barbara died that he sold it.
Okay.
It wasn't complete yet, but he sold it. And then I guess Barbara was gone maybe a year or two. He bought a new one and started over.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh.
it was the second of two airplanes to come out of that basement. So so that's the kind of Fred of guy Fred was, that he would build an airplane in his basement.
Yeah, he sounds like an interesting guy. It
Yeah.
sounds like something Nancy would do, actually. My wife, I forgot to introduce my wife Nancy in the middle here, as kind of co-host if she has any questions.
Right. So I met Fred and Barbara in the tail end of 2007. I became pastor of a church that they were members of. Barbara's brother had actually been my predecessor at the church. So that's probably why they joined there in York Springs. And
Okay.
Barbara had a bad fall and was hard to get in and out of the house. So I visited them as homebound members for quite a while. and was always happy to hear all of their stories, especially about their time down in Texas. I always had to be careful of their dog, though. Man, their dog hated me. I don't know why. But that dog did not like me. I'm not sure the dog liked anybody but Fred and Barbara, to be honest.
Okay.
And then Barbara died in 2017, and I had a tough time with the church and left the church in 2018. And Fred was always a stalwart supporter of me, so he left the congregation too, and he and I kept in touch after that. He would drive up to Mount Holly, where I work now, and we'd meet for lunch, or I'd take supper down to him just to make sure he was up and doing well. And he, in those years, drove bus for Jacoby Transportation. So he had a van. He would drive around Adams and York County, pick up one or two kids, and then come back home, and then go take those one or two kids back home again.
Was that as he was a postal worker before that? Was that?
Yeah, his main career was as a postal worker. That's
mail
right.
Carrier.
Yep, in Gettysburg, and then he also ran the bike shop in Gettysburg and a motorcycle inspection station, where Mr. G's Ice Cream is now.
Oh, okay.
Is where their home was, and where his shop was out back.
Okay, so did he work on his own bikes then? After?
I'm sure. Yeah.
He did, because I found a lot of maintenance records that he took him to the BMW dealer back in the 80s, but I don't know. Maybe after that he started doing his own work.
Well, I'm not sure he did all of it, but I'm sure he did some. He was mechanically inclined. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously building an airplane.
Right.
So how did you ever hear about how he and Barbara met, or any stories about that?
Yeah. So he and Barbara knew each other growing up in Gettysburg. They both graduated from Gettysburg High School. And I think their first memory of each other was when they were both 13, and their moms drugged them to Baltimore for shopping for some reason. But then after high school, they both went their own ways. Barbara was married and had a daughter, and then came back together again after that, and were married for a long time. And
so they separated and then got married again. Is that what you're
saying? No. Barbara was married to someone else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Barbara was married to someone else, and I'm not sure if Fred was or not. I think he may have been in there.
Okay.
Both divorced then and found each other, and were married, and just were a wonderful pair. Barbara became the first female battlefield guide.
Yes, I did. I found I had some articles about that.
Yeah,
and then she was interviewed.
Fred was registered maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years after that. So they were the first husband and wife couple to be battlefield guides.
Oh, neat. So then they lived in PA for a while and then moved to Texas later. Is that how did that story unfold?
That's right. Yeah, they lived in Pennsylvania, and they had a rough time of it there for a while. They got divorced, and then within a year, where they were married again.
Okay.
And Fred had flew out to Kerrville, Texas, in his airplane, and then for some reason wanted to take Barbara out. And by the time they came back to Pennsylvania from going out to Kerrville, Texas, they had put a deposit down on a 5-acre ranch, and they had a new marriage certificate.
Yeah. All right. I actually read that in the obituary. I found
right.
I had his obituary. So he wrote his own, actually.
Yeah, he did write his own, and he was honest about warts and all.
Yes.
And I've always treasured that about Fred, that he was humble in that way, to be willing to say, no, I wasn't perfect, but Barbara loved me through it. And that's short trail.
I think you had mentioned that she was like the rock in the family or something, that he would go off on adventures and she would bring him back to reality or something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, that's about right. And she was very encouraging of him going off to see the world and going on his motorcycle adventures out west and in Europe then. But yeah, she was always the steadfast one that stayed put. To loop around to flying again,
Mhm.
Barbara knew he was interested in that. So one day called him at the post office and said, when you get off work, don't come home. There's a flying lesson waiting for you at the Gettysburg Airport.
Oh,
So Barbara started him on that path too.
oh, because she bought the
The
flying
flying
lesson.
lesson.
She
Yeah.
set it up. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hmm, that's neat.
So do you know what kind of did he have an airplane that he rented? Like you said he built one, but did he have one that he
He
used?
had I'm almost sure he
A
had a
Cessna.
Cessna.
Okay, so he did
Um,
have a Cessna also. He bought one
I
and
think
stored it
that's right. Let
somewhere.
me see if I have that anywhere. No, I don't have that off the top of my head. But
Okay,
I think it was a Cessna, and then he was doing a kit in his basement. He wasn't building it out of his own design. He had bought a kit and
right.
was working from that. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Do you know anything about did he talk about his adventures at all? Like any good stories about
He
traveling across the U.S. or
he
Europe?
was very proud of the European trip, and how he took all those switchbacks up over the Alps.
Okay.
That was the time of his life there. I remember he told me one time about a trip out to Sturgis. I guess there's
Okay.
a big motorcycle rally out there, and he got to riding with a young guy, and they rode together for a couple hours in the evening, and then decided they'd share a hotel room. And I said, "Well, Fred, that seems a little bit sketchy." Oh, Ben, don't worry, I had my pistol on me.
That's fine.
I'm sure he did too. He said,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sturgis is it's a big meet where I heard it's a big party, I guess, basically.
"Yeah,
I've
I'm
never
sure."
been there, but
Uh-huh.
I don't have any desire to do that at this age anyway, especially. So Nancy, do you have any questions at all? Did you have any?
Not at this point. The question that I was curious about was his adventure trips. If there was really, and so that's sort of what Craig just asked. Like in Europe, if there was any other, any other major or interesting trip fact or things of, you know.
Well, to me, it always baffled me that they would ship the motorbikes. Like he didn't rent a cycle there; he took his own.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and I
That's
think,
true. Yeah, you had the RT there. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it was two different trips. I think it was one in Europe and then one in Great Britain. I think there were two different trips.
Yeah.
I don't think they
Yeah.
were back to back. And then out west, I mean, Fred saw every state from the back of a motorcycle, at least the 48. Um, he got all over.
Yeah, I
Do
think I
you
have
happen
okay. Go ahead.
Did you happen to hear any stories of how well his bike held up as opposed to, breaking down flat tires challenges in these things? Did you hear any of those stories?
Hmm. No, I don't recall hearing any. I mean, I heard when he laid the RT down. I heard that story.
Okay.
Um,
What was the story for that? Since I had to fix
oh,
part of that.
right. I mean, I don't know the specifics of it, but he
Oh,
shared that happened. I didn't know the whole bit about it. I think he was a little bit embarrassed that it had happened to
well,
share the whole story.
I'll tell you what, the BMWs, I've ridden all my life and I started riding BMWs about 8 years ago, and they're so high, have such a high center of gravity. You just kind of get them going into the one side, and they just drop. I mean,
Hmm.
I dropped it about 3 times before I got used to it. I've ridden
Oh, is that
motorcycles all my
right?
life.
Okay,
Yeah, my just off the center stand or whatever. But I
right,
mean, they're just so high center of gravity that you're
right.
totally different bike.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
I can understand it.
yeah. Well, I am not the adventuresome kind, so I never got to own a motorbike or in an airplane with them.
Okay. Yeah, I actually I left the scratches on the other side, but I fixed it up and fixed the fairing. I made it sturdy inside because it was kind of broken off the mounts and things
Right,
like that.
right.
But I got it. It's all solid now. And it's a good bike.
Yeah, it's seen everywhere.
Yeah.
He was very much a fan of Texas. He very much liked living down in Texas.
Okay.
Barbara and he lived at Camp Verde, which was a Civil War site. I guess before the Civil War, the Army was doing experiments to use camels in the Army. and that's
Okay.
where that happened. And Barbara became the postmistress and the general store manager there in Cape Verde. So
Okay.
he had a lot of stories of Texas too. He always enjoyed his life down there.
So why? So I guess I'm missing the part of the story why they moved back. Did they both move back like when they retired or something? Like they were.
Yeah, I think
Was
they
there a
were ready
reason?
to be. They only had one grandchild. I think they were ready to be back and be more involved in his life.
Okay,
Uh,
'cause the grandchild was here, so
yeah.
that was okay.
So yeah, I think that was what brought them back. And
Was that the grandchild to her daughter from the previous marriage, or
yeah, yep, that's right.
okay, okay,
Yep, and then
Mm.
Fred adopted Suzette. That was a little bit rocky there at the end, but families are complicated. What can you say?
yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions. I guess.
Hmm.
Do you have anything else, Nance? I mean, the only thing. What would Fred say if he saw his motorcycle restored? Do you think?
Oh, Fred loved life, and Fred loved his adventures, and Fred loved Barbara, and the riding away and the riding home were part of a rhythm for life for him. So to know that that motorcycle is on the road and well loved again and having more adventures, I think would just tickle him.
Great.
You got me a little misty thinking.
So,
No, it's okay. It's just
yeah.
Fred was a dear soul. Fred was
Okay.
one of my supporters when I didn't have many, and
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I was thankful for him. And you know, during this whole time after Barbara died, then COVID happened in 2020.
Mm.
And then his dog Dixie died, and Fred Dearheart was bringing Dixie's ashes home and fell and broke his hip.
Oh, geez.
Oh my! And so we had to get Fred into a nursing home for rehab for a while, but he was adamant he was coming back to his house up there on the hill, and
Okay.
he made it back. But yeah, it was quite a rough couple years there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
sounds like it. Well, I'm glad we got to do this interview and give Fred a little bit of
Yeah, I am too. I
of
am too.
memories.
There was something else I wanted to say.
Oh, okay, sure.
Oh, at the end of Fred's obituary, he wrote, well, not wrote, he quoted a poem
Hmm.
from a pilot in World War II. If it's okay with you, I'd like to read that.
Sure. Yes.
Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of, wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence, hovering there. I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark nor eagle flew. And while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. So
Excellent.
he was a good soul, and he had a lot of adventures, and he always managed to come home to us again. So
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ben.
you're welcome. If you think of something else you'd like to know, shoot me a line.
Sounds good. And welcome to RDH Garage.
Great, thanks.